He was offered the same kind of money that makes people change overnight. Fast money, loud money, viral money. He didn't chase it. He never did. And somehow he kept winning in a world that was constantly speeding up, while others were becoming rich in months. He was becoming dangerous in decades. Not loud, not flashy, just compounding. And that difference is where the entire story begins. There is a kind of silence in wealth that nobody talks about. Not the silence of poverty, but the silence of patience. A man sitting in Omaha, watching the world rotate faster every year, while he barely moved at all. No sudden pivots, no viral moments, no emotional reactions to hype cycles, just numbers, time, and discipline repeating itself so quietly, it almost looks like nothing is happening. But that's the illusion, because underneath that stillness, something was compounding that most people never feel long enough to understand. Money doesn't just grow, it behaves. It reflects the personality of the person holding it, and most people don't hold it long enough for it to mature. They trade it for excitement, for urgency, for the feeling of being early. And that's where the modern world begins to split into two realities. One reality is fast money. Crypto spikes, meme stocks, sudden wins, influencer income, viral flips, attention-driven wealth. The other reality is almost invisible. Index funds, insurance floats, reinvested dividends. Businesses held for decades. Compounding that feels slow, until it becomes unstoppable. He chose the second world, not because the first one didn't exist, but because he understood something most people never emotionally survive long enough to learn. Fast money changes behavior faster than it changes balance sheets. And behavior is what destroys wealth. In the modern attention economy, money doesn't just sit in accounts. It reacts to emotion. A notification becomes a trade. A tweet becomes liquidity. A video becomes financial conviction. People don't invest anymore. They respond, and response-based money never stays stable. But he didn't live inside response. He lived inside structure. Structure is boring. Structure doesn't trend. Structure doesn't go viral. But structure survives everything that trends cannot. Inflation, recessions, market crashes, panic cycles, hype cycles, even entire generations of financial behavior collapsing and rebuilding again. Because structure is not dependent on emotion, it is dependent on time, and time is the one variable most people try to escape. The world kept accelerating. Social media turned wealth into performance. Screens turned investing into entertainment. Charts became dopamine. Everyone wanted to feel early. Nobody wanted to feel patient. But patience stopped being attractive the moment attention became currency, and in that environment, slow wealth looks like absence. Until it doesn't. There is a psychological moment that almost nobody talks about in finance. The moment when someone realizes they are no longer chasing money, they are chasing identity. Because fast money doesn't just change your account, it changes how you see yourself. You become the person who made it early, the person who caught it before everyone else, the person who turned nothing into something, but that identity has a hidden cost. It needs to be repeated. And repetition forces risk. Bigger bets, faster cycles, shorter patience, until wealth becomes unstable again, just in a different direction. He avoided that loop completely, not by predicting markets, but by refusing the identity that markets try to sell. He didn't want to be early, he wanted to be right. Over a lifetime, and that changes everything. Because when you remove urgency from money, you also remove the pressure to constantly prove yourself. Most financial decisions are not about money. They are about emotional validation. People invest to feel smart. They trade to feel in control. They spend to feel successful. But he treated money like a system, not a mirror. A system that rewards consistency more than intelligence. A system that punishes emotion more than ignorance. And inside that system, he built one of the most unusual financial behaviors in modern history. He waited longer than almost anyone else. Waiting sounds passive, but in markets, waiting is an active force. Because while others rotate capital searching for movement, he let time do the work of thousands of decisions. Compounding is often described as mathematical, but in reality, it is psychological endurance disguised as math. Most people don't fail at investing, they fail at staying invested. Because staying invested requires surviving your own emotions. Fear when markets drop, regret when others get rich faster. doubt when nothing seems to happen, euphoria when hype peaks. Every emotion is designed to pull you out of structure. And that is where most wealth collapses. Not in the market, in the mind. Meanwhile, the world around him evolved into something almost unrecognizable. Companies became narratives, stocks became stories, crypto became belief systems, startups became emotional movements, and every narrative demanded attention. Attention became the new oil, and money followed attention faster than fundamentals. But attention is unstable capital. It inflates quickly and disappears even faster. He built away from that gravity, no dependence on hype, no dependence on virality, no dependence on being relevant every quarter, just ownership. Long-term ownership of systems that produce value even when nobody is watching. That's the part most people misunderstand. He didn't avoid fast money because he couldn't access it. He avoided it because he understood what it does to decision-making. Fast money compresses judgment. It makes tomorrow feel more important than the next decade. And when tomorrow becomes more important than the decade, you stop building wealth, you start chasing it. At some point in every financial system, there is a hidden fork. One path rewards activity, the other rewards endurance. Modern culture pushes activity, constant updates, constant moves, constant reinvention. But wealth, real wealth, does not grow in motion. It grows in continuity. And continuity is rare in a world built on distraction. There is a quiet irony in all of this. The faster money moves in society, the slower real wealth actually grows in the background. Because while most people are reacting to the market, someone else is simply owning it. While most people are trading narratives, someone else is collecting outcomes. And over time, outcomes win, not loudly, not instantly, but absolutely. The difference becomes visible only after enough time has passed that most people can no longer compare themselves because comparison requires shared timeframes, and compounding destroys shared timeframes. Eventually, the gap is no longer about money. It becomes about time itself. One person is still reacting to cycles. Another is already inside a different decade of consequences. And that separation is the real wealth gap the internet rarely shows. Not income, not status, but time horizon. He stretched his so far that short-term noise stopped being financially relevant, and when noise stops being relevant, clarity becomes automatic. No emotional trading, no reaction-based decisions, no urgency disguised as opportunity. Just long arcs of patience that most people would never survive emotionally. Because patience is not passive, it is resistance. Resistance against hype, against fear, against the pressure to constantly optimize. And in modern finance, resistance is rare, almost extinct. The world kept speeding up, but his strategy didn't. And that mismatch is exactly why it worked. Because wealth is not always created by intelligence. Sometimes it is created by mismatch. Being slow in a fast world, being calm in a reactive world, being consistent in a world addicted to change. And over time, that mismatch compounds into something that looks almost unnatural. Not because it is complex, but because it is simple. For too long, there is a final realization buried in this story. Fast money feels like control, but it is actually dependence on timing. Slow money feels like nothing is happening, but it is actually control over time itself, and time is the only market that never closes. In a world obsessed with speed, he chose duration, and duration quietly became dominance.